The Maruka tram. And when I lived at Annerley Junction, we used to catch the Maruka tram to and from Annerley. And when I was a child with the 4 kids, my mother used to give us a penny each and put us on that tram on a Sunday, and she'd get us out of her hair for a couple of hours because it would travel all the way to Clayfield on the other side of the city, and then they would get out and change the pole, and we would stay on the tram, and then it would travel all the way back through the valley, through the city, all the way back to Annerley Junction, and we kids would get off, and it was a real thrill.
So, we're back again, and a person of interest in this particular interview is a fellow called Arthur Little. And what a fascinating story you've got to tell about Arthur and the impact upon Queensland's golden age of tennis.
Yes, Arthur has been very little known as to who he was and what he did in Queensland. Arthur Little, L-I-D-D-L-E, as a 17-year-old, got to the semi-finals of the Australian Open. And that was the time of Crawford, Bromwich, Adrian Quist, Harry Hopman, and 1939.
Just before the war?
That's before the war. And sadly, he joined the war, went into the Navy, and didn't come out till 1948. And in fact, he then played in the Queensland Open and won the Queensland Championship, first time back. And then he ended up getting a job with Sledgers and became the Sledgers sales manager for all of Queensland. And later in life, he married a lovely young lady. He was in the Hopman squad with me. Her name was Betty. Can't think of her other name, but they ended up going to Victoria, and he was the head of Sledgers there. But in when I was in the Hoppy squad in 55, 56.
58 years ago.
Not long, yeah. In that squad was Emerson, Anderson, Laver, Fletcher, Gorman, Frankie Gorman, Jimmy Shepherd, myself, and a fellow by the name of Mel Perry. And the girls at that time were Madonna, Shaq, Robin Evan, Betty Bradfield, Mary Rogers, is who ended up marrying Arthur Little.
Yep.
And so at that time, or a year later, the two young guys who worked at Sledgers was Kenny Fletcher and myself. In Sledgers, in Dunlop's was a fellow named Rod Laver and Frankie Gorman, and Spalding had Jimmy Shepherd and Teddy Curtis. And Teddy Curtis became the great squash player. And so we all went to work in the mornings at our various companies, and then at lunchtime we'd all meet and play pool for an hour, and then we'd catch a tram out to Milton.
You'd warm up your eyes on pool ball.
Oh, we were very competitive, one might say. And then we'd get there and challenge each other, and then at 4 o'clock, Arthur Little would come along and coach all of us, regardless of whether we worked for Sledgers, Spalding, Dunlop. He just had this squad of aggressive young men who wanted to be copying the style of Roseville or Hode or Frank Sedgman. That they were our models, I guess.
So what year was this, roughly?
Oh, 55. 55, just before the Melbourne Olympics. And so there was a time when, I guess, Australia, holders of the Davis Cup, we had Frank Sedgman in those days, his partner Ken McGregor, and then George Worthington, Mervyn Rose, Rex Hartwig. So, and then Ian Eyre, who's the only Queenslander to be in the Davis Cup squad. So he became, in a way, a role model for a lot of us. And then in those days there were young fellows around who became famous for other reasons. Dr. Glenn Shield.
Yes.
He was
Future Senator.
Yes, and he was the guy who challenged authority and took take the rugby union team to South Africa and challenged apartheid. And so yeah, it's been interesting to see where all of these people who were all part of what I call the Milton tennis family have done with their lives and where they've gone and what they've contributed to Queensland and Australia and the world for that matter.
And it just amazes me that such a rich history just fell on the head. Milton just seems just fell off the face of the earth.
Well, it's
at a later point.
That's true. Maybe there's a time for all of us. For the first 4 or 5 years, into projects, we got that enthusiasm, and nothing will stop us, and we go at it. And then as we get older, and we want to hang on to power, often we don't have that creative juices or creative instinct to take the next step. But that in those times when Big Bill Edwards was the president, there were some really great men and women who did a lot for tennis, and people that they weren't out front. But Harold Willens was the Queensland manager for Sladys at the time, and he was my boss. And Lester Hancock was the head of Spalding, and they were all on the committees. And then people who probably a lot of people in Queensland would know, if they played in the Greater Brisbane area, would know a lady named Ivy Ham. Ivy Ham ran Greater Brisbane tennis and all the fixtures that we had in those days. Oh, I don't know, 20 or 30 years, just wonderful. And there've been many, many other great administrators for tennis. Not just, we tend to only look at the players and all the great players we've had, but it's those administrators who gave us kids
that framework, don't they?
Gave us a great chance. And so I guess we lost our way in the 70s.